Chipmaker Xilinx finished its fiscal year reporting fourth quarter earnings up 11% from last year. Investors are taking note, and the stock is up almost 11%, 12% in the last 2 weeks there. You can see 20% year to date. With us now for an exclusive interview is CEO Moshe Gavrielov. Moshe, thanks for joining us. Let me ask, first of all, about what's driving this growth. I mean, investors seem pleased. What are the strongest growth drivers for you?
Well, we actually had a great year, 29% growth. We service a lot of markets, a broad range of markets, and what is driving our success is the transition to programmable devices, which Xilinx is the bellwether player in that market. We're seeing more and more devices being driven to be implemented with programmable logic as opposed to traditional paths. And this transition, which we call the programmable imperative, has been long in coming, but now it's hit us, and it's accelerating going forward. So
the consumers sort of down the line driving these gains, or is it right now corporate spending that's doing it for you?
Well, we service a lot of markets, so indirectly it's a consumer play. And for example, the consumers, as they use cell phones, they generate huge demands for bandwidth, and a lot of the mobile internet and wired communications is implemented using our devices. So indirectly, it is the consumer demand, but it's also business demands, and it's a transition to a whole new generation of products which require insatiable bandwidth. Those demands are being addressed using our devices.
We've seen a lot of companies that you wouldn't expect to take a hit from the tragedy that we saw in Japan. I mean, what are the markets that are most important to you, and how did you fare through the Japanese tragedy here?
We actually did well. About 10% of our business is in Japan, and that had a de minimis impact on our results. We actually got our supply chain up and running again, so it won't have an impact on our worldwide elements. Our employees are doing well, and we're seeing resurgence. The Japanese are fabled for being very resilient, and we're seeing that, and they're coming through, and they're continuing to develop new products. So we don't see a big impact to our business from Japan at all.
What about from commodities prices? We just spoke with the CFO of Procter & Gamble, but of course, many businesses are being affected by commodities rising across the board. How is Xilinx dealing with that kind of input?
We are a little impacted by the price of gold. Gold wiring is used to manufacture our chips, but it, again, is a small impact, and it doesn't have a huge effect on our overall results.
What about your ability to innovate here? You know, a lot of these chips turn into commodities themselves, these chipsets. What does Xilinx do that sets it apart from the competition specifically?
We have moved very quickly to the most advanced technology, and we just introduced and sampled our customers and demonstrated at NAB, which is a broadcasting convention in Las Vegas, our latest generation of products, which is 28 nanometer. We were the first in the industry to show those parts. That will feed design wins going forward, and we have almost an insatiable demand for access to this technology. The design wins are happening now, and they will, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, translate into significant production revenue. So for us to continue to grow, it's essential that we remain the leading edge of the technology front, and we have done that. Early introduction of the product will help drive our business going forward.
Moshe, when I think about the kind of growth that we're talking about in this area of technology, and when I hear terms like insatiable demand, then 11% doesn't seem so incredible to me. Do you expect to raise growth going forward?
We have modeled 8 to 12% on average per year over the next 5 years going forward. And for us, because we are so broad and we service numerous markets, we're less dependent on fluctuations in any single market. So it's not an issue of home runs. It's just continuing with a very, very high batting average on a broad set of markets while retaining very high margins. And we have targeted that growth. Again, we believe that it'll be faster than the general semiconductor growth, but it'll be a steady growth as opposed to a one-time marvel growth.
Got it. Moshe, thanks so much for joining us. Moshe Gavrielov there, CEO of Xilinx.